Commander Torek had seen many species break. He had watched the proud Mulvery fall to their knees within hours of capture. He had seen the warrior race of Drenuk weep like children when placed in chains. 17 species across 3 star systems had learned to fear the Valari Empire, and every single one of them had begged for mercy. This was natural. This was how the universe worked. The strong conquered. The weak submitted. It was simple. So when Tarek's warship intercepted the human colony vessel called Horizon's Edge, he expected nothing different. His soldiers moved through the ship with practiced ease. They rounded up 47 humans and brought them aboard the Dominion in restraints. The operation took less than 2 hours. Tarek stood in the observation room above the holding cells and waited for the show to begin. He had done this many times before. First would come the crying, then the screaming, then the desperate promises. They would offer anything. Their knowledge, their loyalty, their own people. They always did. He waited and waited. The humans sat quietly in their cells. Some of them talked to each other in low voices. A middle-aged man with gray at his temples, the one the records identified as June, actually smiled at a passing guard. A young woman named Hannah lay on her back and stared at the ceiling as if she was simply bored. Torek felt his scales tighten against his neck. This was wrong. He called for the psychological officer. A thin Valari named Sevik arrived within minutes, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly as he studied the readouts from the cell sensors. Their stress hormones are barely elevated, Sevik said. His voice carried a note of confusion. Heart rates are normal. Brain activity shows no signs of panic or despair. They are pretending, Torek said. They must be. No, Commander. These readings cannot be faked. They are genuinely calm. Sevik paused. His claws clicked against the datapad. In fact, their brain patterns suggest something else entirely. What? Planning. They are thinking, calculating, as if they are waiting for something. Torek turned back to the observation window. In Cell 7, a man called Tay sat cross-legged on the floor. He was the captain of the human vessel. He should have been the most broken of them all. Instead, he appeared to be meditating. His eyes were closed. His breathing was slow and steady. As if sensing observation, Tay opened his eyes and looked directly at the window. He could not see through it. The glass was one way, but somehow he knew exactly where Torek was standing. Tay smiled. It was not a smile of surrender. It was the smile of someone who knew something others did not. Torek felt cold. He ordered extra guards posted at every cell. He ordered the lights kept on at all hours. He ordered constant surveillance and immediate reports of any unusual behavior. The reports came quickly. They were not comforting. The humans were talking to each other through the walls. They used a system of taps and clicks that the translation software could not decode. When guards entered to deliver food, the humans watched them. Not with fear, with interest. They noted the weapons the guards carried. They looked at the locks on the doors. They counted footsteps in the corridors. In Cell 12, a woman named Yuna asked for medical supplies to treat a small cut on her arm. When a guard refused, she simply nodded and tore a strip from her own clothing to bandage the wound herself. She did not complain. She did not ask again. In Cell 3, a security officer named Minho did exercises, push-ups, sit-ups, running in place. He did this for hours without stopping. When guards told him to stop, he simply waited until they left and began again. The teenage girl in Cell 9, Nari, spent her time watching the guards change shifts. She never spoke. She only watched. Her eyes moved back and forth, tracking every movement, memorizing every face. On the second day, Tarek called a meeting with his senior officers. "Something is wrong with these creatures," he said. They do not behave like prisoners. Perhaps they are stupid, one officer suggested. Perhaps they do not understand their situation. No, Torek shook his head. Look at their eyes. They understand perfectly. That is what troubles me. Should we begin harsh interrogation? Another officer asked. Pain usually brings submission. Torek considered this. In his experience, the threat of pain was enough to break most species. The actual application of it was rarely necessary. But these humans showed no fear of threats. Would pain be different? He looked at the screen showing Tay's cell. The human captain was still sitting calmly, still waiting, still smiling that small, knowing smile. Begin with the captain, Torek ordered. Find out what he knows about human military strength. Find out why they do not fear us. Yes, Commander. As his officers left to prepare the interrogation chamber, Torek remained at the window. He had conquered worlds. He had broken species that thought themselves unbreakable. He had never felt doubt before, but watching these strange, quiet humans, he felt something he had not felt in many years. It was small. It was faint. But it was there, crawling up his spine like a cold wind dot. It was the beginning of fear dot, and somewhere in cell 7, Tay opened his eyes again and looked at the window. He could not see Torek, but he knew. Somehow, he knew. The human captain whispered something to himself. The audio sensors picked it up, but the words made no sense to the Valari who heard them. They have no idea what they have caught, Tay said softly. Poor things. Then he closed his eyes and continued to wait. The interrogation chamber was designed to inspire fear. The walls were black metal. The air was kept cold. A single bright light hung from the ceiling, pointed at a metal chair in the center of the room. Restraints hung from the chair's arms and legs. Torek had seen countless prisoners tremble the moment they entered this room. The Mulvery ambassador had wet himself. A Drenuk war chief had started crying before anyone even touched him. The room itself was a weapon. Tay walked in and looked around with mild curiosity. He sat down in the chair without being forced. He placed his arms on the armrests and waited for the guards to fasten the restraints. Comfortable chair, he said. A bit cold in here, though. Torek stood across from him. Two interrogation specialists flanked the commander, their claws ready, their tools arranged on a nearby table. Everything was prepared. Everything was as it should be, and yet Torek felt like he was the one being examined. You will answer my questions, Torek said. If you refuse, you will experience pain. If you continue to refuse, you will experience more pain. Do you understand? I understand, Tay said. His voice was calm, almost friendly. Good. Tell me about your military. How many warships does humanity possess? Tay tilted his head. Before I answer that, may I ask you something? Torek blinked. This was not how interrogations worked. You are not in a position to ask questions. I know. I am just curious. How many crew members serve on this ship? The question was so unexpected that Torek answered before thinking. 412. Why do you ask? And what is your fuel capacity? How far can this ship travel before needing to resupply? Torek's scales rippled with irritation. You will answer my questions. Not the other way around, of course. Tay nodded politely. Your military. You want to know about our military. Well, humanity has many ships, many soldiers, many weapons. Does that help? Be specific. I cannot be specific. I am a colony ship captain, not an admiral. I do not know exact numbers. Tay smiled. But I can tell you this. Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We have become very good at it. Every generation, we find new ways to kill. It is one of our talents. Torek leaned forward. You speak of killing, as if it is something to be proud of. Not proud, honest. You asked about our military. I am telling you the truth. We are a violent species. We fight over land. We fight over resources. We fight over ideas. Sometimes we fight for no reason at all. Tay's eyes met Torik's. And we never stop. Even when we are losing. Even when we are dying. We never stop. The room was silent for a moment. You were trying to frighten me, Torik said. No, I'm trying to warn you. There's a difference. Torik gestured to his specialists. Apply pain level 2. One of the specialists stepped forward and pressed a device against Tay's arm. There was a sharp buzzing sound. Tay's body went rigid. His teeth clenched. Sweat appeared on his forehead. When the device was removed, Tay let out a long breath. He was shaking slightly, but he did not scream. He did not beg. That hurt, he said. But I felt worse. Worse? Torik asked. I broke my leg once. Fell off a mountain during a climbing expedition. I had to set the bone myself and walk 3 days to reach help. Tay rolled his shoulders. Tane and I are old friends. In the next room, Yuna was being questioned by a different interrogator. They wanted to know about human biology, weaknesses, vulnerabilities, things that could be exploited. Yuna was happy to talk about human biology. She was a doctor, after all. Humans can survive losing up to 40% of their blood, she explained calmly. We can function with 1 kidney, 1 lung, 1 eye. We can survive extreme heat and extreme cold. We can go days without food and still fight. The interrogator made notes. What kills humans quickly? Many things. But we do not die easily. Yuna leaned back in her chair. Do you know what Earth is like? Our home planet? It is covered in predators. Poisonous plants, diseases, natural disasters. Everything on Earth tries to kill you. And yet humans conquered the entire planet. We became the top predator. We killed everything that threatened us. Lions, tigers, bears, wolves. We hunted them nearly to extinction. She smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. The things that used to eat us? We eat them now. The diseases that killed millions? We cured them. The planet itself tried to destroy us with ice ages and volcanic eruptions. We survived. We always survive. The interrogator's hand trembled as he wrote dot in the 3rd interrogation room. Hannah was being questioned about the colony ship's destination. She gave the coordinates freely. Then she started asking questions of her own. How fast can this ship travel? What is the communication range? How long until someone notices you are missing? The interrogator told her to be quiet. I am just making conversation, Hannah said innocently. It is boring in the cells. Nothing to do but think. And count. Count what? Everything. Hannah smiled. Your footsteps. Your breathing patterns. The time between guard rotations. The number of lights in the corridor. Everything. The interrogations continued for 3 days. The Valari learned many things about humans. None of the information made them feel better. Humans healed quickly. Humans adapted to new environments faster than any species on record. Humans could eat almost anything. Humans formed tight social bonds and would die to protect each other. And humans, when captured, did not think about escape. They planned it. On the 3rd night, Torik reviewed all the interrogation reports. He read about human endurance, human stubbornness, human creativity, human violence. He read Tay's final words from that day's session. You think you have captured us, the human captain had said, but you have only gathered us in one place. You have given us time to think, time to watch, time to plan. This is the worst mistake you could have made. You are prisoners, the interrogator had replied. You cannot escape. Tay had laughed. Actually laughed. Humans have escaped from everything. Prisons, camps, burning buildings, sinking ships. We escaped from our own planet and spread across the stars. His eyes had been bright with something that looked almost like joy. You have no idea what we are capable of. But you will learn. I promise you that. Torek closed the report. For the first time in his life, he considered the possibility that his empire had made a terrible mistake. On the 5th day, the guards began making reports about strange behavior. At first, the reports seemed minor. Small things. Easy to dismiss. But the small things added up. A guard named Velik noticed that the human woman, Hana, counted his footsteps every time he walked past her cell. She did not hide it. She moved her lips with each step, her eyes tracking his boots as they struck the floor. When he stopped, she stopped. When he walked again, she counted again. Another guard noticed that the engineer June tapped his fingers against the wall in patterns. The patterns seemed random at first, but when the audio was analyzed, the Valari discovered something disturbing. The tapping matched the tapping from other cells. The humans were communicating through the walls. The security officer Minho had stopped exercising. Instead, he spent his time pressing his hands against different parts of his cell. He pushed on the walls. He pressed on the floor. He tested the door. He did this slowly and carefully, as if measuring something. And the quiet woman named Sue, who had not spoken a single word since her capture, was drawing on the floor of her cell. She used food scraps and drops of water to create markings. When a guard finally looked closely at what she was drawing, he felt his blood turn cold. It was a map of the ship. It was not complete, but it was accurate. The detention level, the corridor layout, the location of guard stations, all drawn from memory, all created from tiny observations gathered over 5 days. The guard erased the map immediately. Sue watched him do it. She showed no emotion. When he left, she simply began drawing again. Tarek received these reports in his command center. He read them 3 times. Then he called an emergency meeting. "They are not behaving like prisoners," he said. "They are behaving like soldiers gathering intelligence for an operation." His officers shifted uncomfortably. What kind of operation could they possibly be planning? Asked Lieutenant Vexa. "They are unarmed. They are locked in cells. They have no resources. They have their minds," Torek replied. "And that, it seems, is more dangerous than I realized." He ordered the surveillance footage reviewed. Every hour of every day. Every movement the humans made. What the review team found was remarkable. The humans had developed a communication system that did not require words. When they passed each other during transfers to the interrogation rooms, they used small gestures. A touch on the left ear meant one thing. A scratch on the right arm meant another. A pattern of blinks could convey entire sentences. They shared information during meal distributions. The food trays were made of soft material that could be bent. A tray bent in certain ways carried messages. When guards collected the trays, they never noticed that each tray told a story. The teenage girl Nari had been watching the guard rotation so carefully that she could predict which guard would appear at which door within seconds of accuracy. She shared this information through the wall tapping code, and Captain Tay had established a clear chain of command. Through hand signals during his interrogation transfers, he had assigned roles to every single prisoner. Minho was testing structural weaknesses. June was studying electrical systems. Hannah was tracking movement patterns. Yuna was cataloging which guards were careless and which were alert. They were not waiting to be rescued. They were preparing to rescue themselves. "This is impossible," Lieutenant Vexa said after watching the footage. "No species operates like this. Even our best soldiers could not organize this efficiently under these conditions." Humans are not like other species, Torek said quietly. We have been treating them as if they were. That was our mistake. He ordered new security measures. The cells were searched. Any objects that could be used for communication or tools were removed. The humans were isolated. No more transfers. No more contact. Complete separation. For 2 days, the plan seemed to work. The humans sat alone in their cells, silent, still. The counting stopped. The tapping stopped. The drawing stopped. Torek began to relax. Perhaps the humans could be broken after all. Perhaps they simply needed more pressure. On the 7th day, June requested a medical examination. He claimed to have pain in his chest. Standard procedure required that prisoners with health complaints be examined. Torek approved the request. June was taken to the medical bay under heavy guard. The Valari doctor examined him and found nothing wrong with his chest. But during the examination, June's eyes moved constantly. He looked at the medical equipment, the power conduits on the ceiling, the location of exits, the types of locks on the doors. When he was returned to his cell, June sat down and smiled in the cell next to his. Hannah noticed that June was tapping his fingers again. But this time, the pattern was different, longer, more complex. He was sharing everything he had learned. That night, Torek received a report that made his scales turn pale. June had a prosthetic leg. It was a simple device, given to him after an accident years ago. The Valari had scanned it during processing and determined it was harmless. Just metal and plastic. No weapons. No communication devices. But the scan had missed us something. The prosthetic contained electrical components. Small ones, meant to help the artificial limb respond to nerve signals. In human hands, those components could be repurposed. June had spent 5 days quietly figuring out how to R. IK immediately ordered June's prosthetic removed. Guards rushed to his cell. They found him sitting calmly, his artificial leg detached and lying on the floor beside him. Looking for this? June asked. You can have it. I do not need it anymore. The guards took the prosthetic. They scanned it again. The electrical components were still there. Nothing seemed different, but later, when engineers examined the device more closely, they found that several small parts were missing. Tiny pieces. Almost invisible. They searched June's cell. They searched June himself. They found nothing. The parts had already been passed along. Through the meal trays. Through small gaps in the cell walls. Through methods the Valari could not even imagine. 47 humans. 47 minds working together like parts of a single machine. And the Valari had no idea what they were building. Torek stood alone in the observation room that night. He watched the humans in their cells. They looked peaceful. Some were sleeping. Some were sitting quietly. But Torek knew now that the quiet was a lie. Behind those calm faces, plans were forming. Strategies were being refined. Countdown was happening. He just did not know what they were counting down to. In cell 7. Tay opened his eyes and looked at the observation window. He could not see Torek, but he knew the commander was watching. Tay held up 3 fingers, then 2, then 1. Then he smiled and closed his eyes again. Torek did not sleep that night. The 8th night began like any other. Guards walked their routes. Lights dimmed for the sleep cycle. The ship hummed with the quiet sounds of space travel. In the detention level, 47 humans lay still in their cells. To the cameras, they appeared to be sleeping. The guards saw nothing unusual. The sensors detected nothing wrong. But the humans were not sleeping. They were waiting. And at exactly the 3rd hour of night cycle, they stopped waiting. The first sign of trouble was a small flicker in the lights. It lasted less than a second. Most of the guards did not even notice. Then the lights went out completely, emergency alarms started screaming. Red backup lights snapped on, casting everything in a bloody glow. Guards grabbed their weapons and looked around in confusion. In cell 14, June was already moving. He had removed his prosthetic leg days ago. But what the Valari did not know was that June had kept one final component hidden. A tiny power cell, no bigger than a fingernail, swallowed and held in his stomach until the right moment. He had retrieved it that morning. Combined with other small parts that had been passed from cell to cell, he had built something simple. A device that could overload the power system for exactly 12 seconds. 12 seconds of darkness. That was all the humans needed. The locks on the cells were electronic. When the power died, the locks reset. For a brief moment, they could be forced open by hand. Minho had spent 7 days testing his cell door, pressing it, pushing it, learning exactly where it was weakest. He hit that spot now with all his strength. The door burst open. In the darkness, humans poured out of their cells. They moved fast. They moved quiet. They had memorized every step of this journey in their minds. Hannah reached the first guard before he could raise his weapon. She was small. She was fast. She had been faking weakness for days, getting herself sent to the medical bay, where she had hidden a surgical blade in her clothing. The guard fell without making a sound. The emergency power came back on. The lights returned, and the Valari saw what was happening. The detention level had become a battlefield. 47 humans against 200 guards. The numbers should have meant victory for the Valari, but numbers meant nothing when one side had been preparing for 8 days and the other was caught by surprise. Tay led the charge down the main corridor. He had taken a weapon from a fallen guard. His hands were steady. His eyes were focused. Beside him, Minho fought with nothing but his fists, and somehow that was enough. Yuna stayed back, treating the wounded. She worked on human and Valari alike. A guard with a broken arm. A human with a cut on her head. It did not matter. She was a doctor. She healed everyone. But she did not stop the fighting. Young Nari ran through the chaos like a ghost. She knew every corridor, every turn, every hiding spot. She guided groups of humans to strategic positions, then disappeared before the guards could catch her. Sue, the quiet one, had found the security station. She did not fight. She did not need to. Her perfect memory contained every detail of the ship's layout, and she used that knowledge to lock doors, seal corridors, and trap guards in sections where they could not help their comrades. The Valari fought back. They were trained warriors. They had better weapons. They had numbers, but they had never faced anything like this. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not stop when they were hurt. They did not retreat when they were outnumbered. They did not surrender when they were losing. A guard shot June in the shoulder. June kept fighting. He picked up a metal bar and swung it with his good arm until 3 more guards were on the ground. Nana was surrounded by 4 Valari. She smiled at them. Then she did something the guards did not expect. She dropped her weapon and raised her hands. The guards relaxed for a moment. That moment was a mistake. Hannah moved faster than they could react. She used their own weapons against them. Their own momentum. Their own confusion. In 10 seconds, she was the only one standing. This was what humans were. Not just strong. Not just tough. Smart. Adaptable. Unpredictable. The battle lasted 47 minutes. When it was over, 32 Valari guards were dead or unable to fight. The rest had retreated to defensive positions. The humans controlled the detention level completely. Tay stood at the main corridor junction. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead. His clothes were torn. He was breathing hard, but he was smiling. He looked up at the surveillance camera. He knew Torek was watching. The commander had to be watching. "We do not beg," Tay said clearly. His voice echoed in the silent corridor. "We never beg. We adapt. We plan. And we never stop fighting. You could have let us go. You could have treated us with respect. But you chose to cage us. You chose to hurt us. You chose to make us your enemies." He paused. Behind him, the other humans gathered, wounded but standing, tired but unbroken. "You have made a terrible mistake," Tay continued. "And now you will learn what that means." In his command center, Tarek watched the screen with cold horror. He had 400 crew members on this ship. He had weapons. He had power. He had every advantage dot, and somehow, 47 humans with nothing but their hands and their minds had taken control of an entire deck. This was not possible. This could not be happening, but it was. Lieutenant Vexa appeared beside him. Her voice was shaking. "Commander, what are your orders?" Tarek did not answer. He was watching Tay on the screen. The human captain was organizing his people, treating the wounded, securing positions, preparing for the next phase, whatever that phase was. "Commander?" Vex asked again. Tarek finally spoke. His voice was quiet, defeated. "I do not know," he said. "I do not know what to do." For the first time in the history of the Valari Empire, a commander admitted that he was afraid of his prisoners, and somewhere in the detention level, Yuna finished bandaging a wounded Valari guard. She helped him sit up. She gave him water. "Why?" The guard asked weakly. "Why help me?" Yuna looked at him with calm, steady eyes. "Because we are not monsters," she said. "We are humans. We fight our enemies, but we also show mercy. That is what makes us different from you." The guard did not understand, but he would. Eventually, they all would. The Valari rescue ships arrived at the last known coordinates of the Dominion 3 weeks after contact was lost. They expected to find wreckage, debris, the remains of a battle. Instead, they found the Dominion drifting peacefully through space. Its lights were on. Its engines were cold. Its systems were locked. A boarding team entered through the main airlock. They moved carefully, weapons ready. They did not know what they would find. What they found was silence. The ship was intact. Nothing was destroyed. Nothing was burned. The corridors were clean. The lights worked perfectly, but the crew was gone from their posts. The boarding team searched deck by deck. They found the Valari crew members in their quarters. All of them, alive, unharmed, but locked inside their own rooms. The security systems had been reprogrammed. The crew could not open their doors. They had food and water, delivered through small openings by an automated system that someone had set up. They had been prisoners on their own ship for 3 weeks. Commander Torek was found in his command center. He was sitting at his desk. He was staring at a piece of paper. When the rescue team approached him, he did not look up. He did not speak. He simply handed them the paper dot. It was a message written imperfect. Valari script. The message read, "We did not beg because we were never afraid. You captured 47 humans. You needed to capture all 8 billion of us to be safe. You did not. Now we know where you live. We know how you fight. We know what you fear. We are coming, not as prisoners, not as victims, but as the thing that hunts you in the silence. Consider this your one warning." Signed, Captain Tay, on behalf of humanity. The rescue team read the message 3 times. Then they checked the ship's computers. The humans had downloaded everything. Military codes, fleet positions, communication frequencies, trade routes, weapon specifications. Everything the Valari Empire had tried to keep secret was now in human hands, and the humans themselves were gone. Ship records showed that they had taken a shuttle 2 weeks ago. They had taken food, water, medical supplies, and weapons. They had flown toward the edge of Valari space, toward human territory. The rescue team leader contacted High Command immediately. His voice was shaking when he made the report. "The humans escaped," he said. "All 47 of them. They took everything. They know everything. And they left a message." "What message?" High Command asked. "A warning. They say they are coming." There was silence on the communication channel. Then a single question: "What do we do?" The rescue team leader looked at Commander Torek. The once proud commander was still staring at nothing. His eyes were empty. His scales had turned pale gray. He looked like a creature whose spirit had been broken. "I do not know," the leader said. "I do not think anyone knows." 3 months passed. The Valari Empire tried to prepare. They increased patrols. They strengthened defenses. They watched the borders of their space with constant attention. Nothing happened. No attacks. No raids. No communication. The humans did not come. And somehow, that was worse. The waiting was terrible. Every unexplained sensor reading made commanders nervous. Every patrol that reported nothing created more tension. The Empire was waiting for an attack that never came. Then one morning, a Valari border station detected ships. Human ships. There were 12 of them, warships. They appeared at the edge of Valari space and stopped. They did not advance. They did not fire. They did not send any messages. They simply waited. The border station commander sent a communication. "Human vessels, state your intentions." No response. "Human vessels, you are in violation of Valari space. Leave immediately or you will be fired upon." No response. The commander ordered his weapons ready. His hands were shaking. His crew was terrified. But the human ships did not move. They did not attack. They did not retreat. They just sat there, in silence, watching. More ships arrived. Human ships. Every day, a few more appeared. By the end of the week, there were 50. By the end of the month, there were 200. They formed a line along the border, a silent wall of metal and weapons. They never crossed into Valari territory. They never made demands. They never explained themselves. They simply watched and waited. The Valari High Council held emergency meetings. Some wanted to attack. Others wanted to negotiate. Others wanted to flee. But no one knew what the humans wanted. And no one wanted to find out the hard way. On a quiet morning, the Valari Emperor received a personal message. It came through channels that should have been secure. It appeared on his private screen, seen by no one else. The message was simple. "We said we were coming. We came. Now you understand. We can reach you anywhere. We can wait as long as we need to wait. We do not beg. We do not threaten. We simply act. You have 2 choices. Leave humanity alone forever, or learn why every predator on our world is either extinct or afraid of us. This is not a negotiation. This is a fact. Choose wisely." Signed, Captain Tay. The Emperor read the message. Then he read it again. He looked out the window of his palace. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars he could see, human ships were waiting. Patient, silent, unstoppable. He thought about the reports he had received. About humans who did not beg. About prisoners who became conquerors. About a species that turned captivity into victory. He thought about Commander Torek, who had not spoken a word since his rescue, who spent his days staring at walls, who woke up screaming from nightmares about smiling humans. The Emperor made his decision. 1 week later, the Valari Empire officially declared that human space was forbidden territory. No Valari ship would ever enter. No Valari citizen would ever make contact. Humanity was to be left alone. Forever. The human warships remained at the border for another month. Then, one morning, they turned and flew away. Silent, calm, unhurried. They had made their point. Far away, on a human colony world, Captain Tay stood on a balcony and watched the sunset. Beside him stood June, walking on a new prosthetic leg. Behind them, Hana and Yuna talked quietly. Minho was teaching young Nari how to fight. Sue sat in the corner, drawing. Not maps this time. Just flowers. Just peaceful things. Do you think they will leave us alone? June asked. Tay smiled. It was the same smile he had worn in that Valari cell. The smile of someone who knew something others did not. They will, he said. They learned an important lesson. What lesson? Tay looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, an empire was afraid. An empire that had conquered 17 species was hiding from one. They learned, Tay said quietly, that humans do not beg. And that is the most terrifying thing in the universe. The sun set. The stars appeared. And humanity continued on, as it always had, surviving, adapting, fighting, forever unbroken.